Welcome to this video. It's the second video in which I am looking at making a ruler using Techsoft Design V3 for laser cutting on a Trotec laser cutter. And this is the stage we got to last time. Okay, so let's carry on with the development of this CAD file. Now I want to put my numbers in here from 0 to 18 centimeters. And to do this, I'm going to be using the text tool, which is tool A5 in my toolbar here at the top left. Okay, if I click on this, nothing seems to happen very much, but if I right click on this, then I get the text settings dialog box, and I'm going to propose that we come to this straight away. I'll cancel this first of all and just show you why that might be useful. Okay, with the text tool, I'm going to click, let's say hello world, click on OK, and you see that that writing is pretty big, so not quite right for my ruler. Let's undo that. Let's now right click on that text, and we have the usual font choices and font styles. What I'm going to look at here is actually the height, which we could have as a natural height in millimeters, not a font size. And looking at the size of my ruler here, I'm going to go with text, which is going to be 3 millimeters in height. So let's see how that looks. I'm going to stick with my standard Arial font, I think. And now let's just come roughly into position, and let's now, well, let's do hello world again, shall we? We don't have to. If I can spell it right, it would be helpful. Okay, let's see how that looks. Yeah, I think for numbers on my ruler, that's going to be rather nice. So let's just click here. Let's put a 0. There you go. Let's put a 1. Let's put a 2 and a 3 for the time being. Okay, now obviously these all want to be positioned next to the relative or the relevant marker on the ruler. Now, where you position these, you have an element of choice here. You know, at this point in time, I am positioning them just to the right of each of these centimeter markings. And that seems to be actually working rather well, but you can obviously choose different locations. I'm just going to jump ahead here and just see how 10 looks. Okay, now I'm not quite sure where 10 is, but actually that looks rather nice indeed. So the key point here is that when I am drawing these, I've got grid lock turned on so that my cursor is on the grid. And then when I put the number in there, the bottom left of that number, okay, should technically, let's just try a 6 there. Okay, yes. So I can see here that it's not quite snapping to the left-hand side of the grid, and this one isn't quite sitting on the line there, and that one is sitting on the line there. But they are all quite closely positioned. Interestingly, I think the reason why that one goes slightly below the line there is because we think that text fonts are all the same height, but actually there are subtle variations in the height of fonts which actually make them look better when we look at them with our eyes. So having a look at this one here, you can see the 0 goes lower than the 1. Okay, that is intentional in the generation of that particular font style. Anyway, that's one way you can do it. Now, if you can see they're slightly offset at the moment. If you want to position them actually underneath the 0, 1, 2, 3 centimeter markings, you could, of course, come to step lock, and I could click on this number here, and I could drag that to the right, and then so on and so forth, sort of drag these along here. In fact, one thing that I might want to do to make that whole process a little easier is once I've got all my numbers down there, I could just select them all, and then I could just move them, let's say 1 millimeter to the left there. And that positions at least the single units. It doesn't quite do the right job here with the units and the tens. So do I move that 2 lines there? That kind of works there as well. Now there is one final thing we can do here to make sure that these numbers are absolutely precisely aligned to the centimeter markings, and that is I could provide a guideline. So I'm going to come to the lines tool here. I'm going to choose pale gray as my color because I want to do a construction line here. What I'm going to do is just draw a line like that. Okay, so I've been quite precise here. I've got step lock turned on. I've basically got drawn 2 millimeters up here. And the idea of that line is I can now select that 0. I can turn off step lock, turn on the attach tool, and the attach tool, if I right click on this, you'll notice the attach tool dialog box says it will snap to the endpoint of a shape. Well, the endpoint of this line is that top point. So if I click on this 0, and you'll notice now that there's a little square just surrounding my 4 directional arrow cursor there. I'm just going to click away for a second. You'll hear the little beep there, hopefully. And if I now pull this in and I make sure that that square is overlapping the end or covering the end point of that line, it now snaps in perfectly onto that point. So what I can now do is I can select this line. I can now come back to my transformation tool. I've already got it set up to do 18 columns, 10 millimeter spacing. Click on OK. And now I can select each of these numbers and I can just snap those in, and they will perfectly line up with each other and with the marker on the top centimeter and millimeter grid there. And it works as well, of course, for double units with, units and tens. Would you call it a double unit? Anyway, units and tens numbers. Okay, so that is how I can make sure everything lines up. Now, I'm well aware that, 6, 4, 5, or 6 is in the right place. These might not be in the right place there. I'm not going to go any further with this. Oh, what I've noticed as well, look, it hasn't got the marking at the end. Aha, and that's because when I did that transformation, let's just confirm here, I put 18 columns, but of course I had 0 included in that. So if I start at 0 as one of my 18 counts, I end up at 17 overall. I should have made that 19 when I did that digital duplication there. I'm just going to cancel that for the time being. I mean, I could always come in here, I could always turn on step lock, and I could always draw that last line there myself. Okay. So let's see what else I need to do here. Oh yes, at this point, if you've done this system of gray lines, leave them. Don't do. The reason for that is because when I come to grade your design folder, if I see in your CAD file you've used alignment marks like that, then that is bonus marks. That's going to get you the top marks on our assessment rubric. So make sure you leave those lines in there. Okay, now let's just have a quick look at graphics here. So let's have a see. I am going to bring in a Chrome session here. I'm going to do a search for cute cat. Okay, and I'm just going to let's take this one here. Okay, oh, it's on Pinterest. Let's see if I click on this. Yes, I need to now right click. Hopefully you realize that if you right click on these little thumbnails, the resolution is not good. But if you right click on these, don't actually go to Pinterest, but right click on this image here and go copy image, then the resolution will be better. You can see the resolution of this one is 236 by 418, which isn't great. And of course, I could always go to tools, make sure I've got images here, sorry, go to tools, and I can always make sure that I go for size large. Okay, but for this one, I'm just going to take that little cat there. Let's right click, let's copy that image, come back to Techsoft, and let's go ahead and paste that in. Now to paste it in, I'm going to use Control V. There it is. And notice that because I've got step lock turned on here, I can actually snap that onto the grid in the bottom left-hand corner. Now, in terms of resizing this, I've got to be careful. If I left click and drag, I can distort that image, which obviously is not what I want to do to my cat. So uniquely to Techsoft Design, if I right click instead and then resize, then it maintains the proportions of the image, which is what I want to do. I don't think this is the best image to work with because it's a portrait, not a landscape image, but for this demonstration, I'll work with it. Okay, now let's come to bitmaps. This image will not laser engrave in its current format, or it won't laser engrave successfully. So I'm going to come to the bitmap menu. I'm going to go to vectorize bitmap, and I'm going to click on this image. And what I want to do is it from an image, sorry, a bitmap image into a vector image. Now, just to make sure we're clear what we mean by a bitmap image, I'm just going to load paint.net and I'm just going to paste that image in to paint.net and then zoom in, control wheel mouse and zoom in, and I can see here how this image is made up from millions of little dots. Okay, that is a bitmap or raster image. We need to convert this into a vector image, and a vector image is made up just of lines. So if I zoom in on this line here, I can see, doesn't matter how far I zoom in, I don't see any pixelation of that line. Okay, so let's now go to bitmaps, vectorize bitmap. I'm going to click on this cat. It's having a good think to itself. Right, okay, so here we are. We're going to get some odd things happening here. The key point now is that I have to work with a monochrome image for our Trotec laser cutter. So I'm going to go to monochrome. And then now with its luminance value, I can control what range of color and brightness or contrast are going to be actually converted or laser cut. And as you can see, whatever I do, it's not really working very well. So I would suggest you don't work with images like this because the consequences are going to be pretty disappointing. So let's come back to my cute cats here. Let's go for something which is going to be, let's see, I'm going to go size large for high resolution, and I'm going to go color. Can I go black and white? Okay, now stencils like this are going to be great. Let's take this one here. I'm going to copy that image. Now notice as well, this has got some text in, so this is going to be quite fun as well. It's a nice high resolution. I'm going to copy that image, and because we've got that text there, I'm going to put this into paint.net. Now, I'm aware that I should be citing that source, um, but as it's just going to be a ruler for a friend, I'm just going to take the original image and not worry about citing the source, which I know is, it would be naughty if I was doing an essay, for example. Anyway, let's now paste this to a new image. And what I now want to do is just select my cute cat. So to do that, I'm going to draw a box roughly in position. And then once I've got to the end, release and then click and drag again. And this way I've got that bottom right corner referenced. Drag it out up and to the left. Make sure I encompass all the parts of that cat. Now I'm going to copy that image, that selected image, back to Techsoft here. And now I'm going to paste it in. Okay, there it is. Wonderful. Let's bring this down here. Let's scale this. Right click, scale that up, and then scale that down, should I say. And now let's go to bitmaps, vectorize image, click on this, monochrome, and then now you can see that that's going to work really well. I've got to just control the luminance value there to make sure that I'm just happy with the kind of thickness of the lines. Okay, click on OK, and notice here as well that I have a custom settings point. That's because the resolution of this image was high, and so now I can increase the resolution of that conversion, which will give me a better quality vector graphic. Okay, and there's my cat ready to put into my ruler. Now we're talking there about the fact that vectors do not contain individual pixels, and if I zoom in on this now, you can see that that is made from basically a very complicated polygon shape. If I click on it, you'll notice I also get a little start edit button appearing down here. And if I click on that, you can see how this has been made up from many, many polylines. And I can actually click on those polylines and move them away and kind of distort the way this looks. I've now got a cat with a flag on its tail. I'm going to undo that. I don't want to do that. And let's end edit and go back to just my normal view. So I can right click, I can scale that down, I can pop that onto my ruler, and that's going to look great. Okay, so I'm going to stop with this video, and we are going to have one more where I'm going to look at adding in your text and then making sure that it's formatted for laser cutting.